So you're considering a career in data analytics but have little idea of what your day-to-day would look like and whether you're going to be replaced by AI. Well, this might be the video for you. If you're new here, hi, I'm Ingrid. I share my career journey and life online, and for the last 7 years I have been working as a data analyst in London. Since this career path is evolving every year, I wanted to chat through some of the data analytics roles still available in 2025 and what I personally do as a lead data analyst. We're also going to graze over the salaries and the scary AI taking away our jobs. So let's get right into it. The role at its core is to use data to solve business problems. You do that by talking to your stakeholders to understand the real problems that they're facing and real questions that they're trying to get answers to. You then identify the types of data that you're going to need to answer those questions, where is it stored, and whether it's even reliable for you to use. You then code 90% of the time in SQL, sometimes in Python, to clean, join, aggregate, and manipulate those different data sets. Next, you analyze the data to spot trends and patterns. And after all of this analysis, you visualize the most important insights or metrics through data visualizations, dashboards, reports, or slide decks. And at the end of it all, you present your findings and recommendations to your stakeholders who asked you that question in the first place. What I would love for you to take away from all of this is that the key here is not the coding. It's to be able to connect the numbers and the trends and the patterns that you're seeing back to the problem that your stakeholders are facing and help them solve that problem through data. That's what differentiates a query monkey from a really good business-oriented data analyst. Remember, coding is just a tool to help you answer a business question. One of the most common data analytics roles is a hybrid role between building automated dashboards and interactive reports, as well as answering ad hoc business questions. That role might just be called a data analyst, it might be called a business analyst, and if it's a lot more reporting and dashboard focused, you might be called a business intelligence analyst. As this type of data analyst, you're basically helping the business to make sense of all of the data that is available to them. So some of the role will involve building interactive dashboards and automating some of the reports so that people in the business can self-serve the data in an easy, interactive, and visual way. However, it's not just about pulling the data and building a dashboard. It's talking to your stakeholders to define the requirements for the dashboard. You agree how you're going to define the metrics, such as an active user or a churned user. It will also involve making sure that people in the business have a shared understanding of that. And then in addition, you're also likely to get some ad hoc requests, any sort of question that your business stakeholders has, such as, we've launched a referral program, which city did it perform best in? And this is your opportunity to dig a little bit deeper into the data on some specific business question and then create a collection of data visualizations which will tell a story to answer that question that you are being asked by your business stakeholders. For this role and most of the data analytics roles, you will be working with SQL every single day. You will be using it to clean, manipulate, aggregate the data set. You might be creating new data sources and ensuring data quality. This role is a very generic data analytics role. It is a great starting role for any data analyst as it helps you build really good foundations in data analysis, in data visualization and reporting, and you get introduced in how to use data in solving business questions. Another common branch of data analytics is Data Insights Analyst. And if the role of a previously discussed data analyst is to build out reporting and the metrics to help business understand its performance, the role of an insights analyst is to take those metrics one step further and understanding what drives the change in the metric or user behavior. Now, this is quite a different role because it relies more heavily on having good business acumen, problem solving, storytelling, and presentation skills. And we're going to deep dive into that in just a second because that's a role that I specialize in. Another area which is on the rise is product analytics. The product analyst almost combines the role of the two discussed previously. However, they are embedded to a specific product. And when I say product, I don't mean the physical product. I mean a digital experience or a service that a company offers. It could be an entire website or just the checkout flow or a mobile app's landing page or an onboarding flow for new users. They're also embedded in a cross-functional product squad. And that's a bunch of people with different skills trying to build that experience and bring it to life. Because of that setup, problem solving, product thinking, communication are extremely key parts of a product analyst role. and you will be responsible for measuring and understanding the product performance, user behavior, and giving recommendations on how to improve that experience. Now, in some companies, it gets a bit more technical, and some of the product analysts are responsible for experimentation. However, that part of the role is a little bit more technical and, in my opinion, overlaps with product data science, and that's a field that I want to ultimately get into. So, okay, Ingrid, but what do you do as a data insights analyst? I actually do quite a lot of things as a normal data analyst. I don't really do reporting and I don't build operational dashboards. I work on quite big open-ended questions which require a lot more time and dedication and depth in order to answer them. The way that I would describe what I spend a lot of time doing is I obsess about the why. Why is our user base growing? Why is our user base churning? Why have we been able to sell more products to this type of customer? And what can we do about all this? Most of my insights work comes from quarterly planning sessions when we meet with business stakeholders. My stakeholders are growth, marketing, product, and some operations. We would then go through what are the key product launches, what kind of growth are we trying to drive, and where do we feel like we need data support. And this is where the projects that I'm working on get identified. Because my projects tend to be quite big and open-ended, it's up to me to decide how I approach it. It's really important to have hypotheses or clear questions in order to guide that analysis so you don't get lost in all of the different avenues that you could take. After that, I basically live in SQL and Python and go deep into the data. Every 2 weeks, I try to share something with my stakeholders. Sharing insights is important because that sparks discussion, conversation, and that can help me guide, formulate more hypotheses off the back of the discussions that I have. An output of most of my work is some sort of slide deck, and I have produced so many in my lifetime. And I can truly say that I spend equally as much time on the coding as I do on creating a story through slides and data visualizations. I think a lot of analysts underestimate the time that it takes to actually pull the insights and turn it into something meaningful that your stakeholders will understand. And if you would like to hear more about how to structure a good PowerPoint presentation with your analysis, let me know. It's definitely something that I'm quite good at and something that I'm passionate about, so I can definitely share in a future video. I also never just send a slide deck in an email or a Slack message. I always schedule a presentation because that creates an opportunity to have a discussion, to ask questions, but also to make sure that everyone is taking away what you want them to take away, because ultimately it's your analysis, you know what you have found, you want everyone to be aligned on that story. It can also help you get feedback on where your interpretation isn't quite right. Your stakeholders will always know more about the product or the area and what is happening, which might help explain why you're seeing your data in the way that you are seeing it. I hope this brings it to life a little bit. Yes, I code a lot and I live in SQL and sometimes Python. However, I spend so much time visualizing the data, thinking about the why, and also presenting and communicating with my stakeholders. So those soft skills are equally, if not more important than the technical skills. I think a more insights-focused role is a really good way to transition from analytics towards data science, because in order to pick up those more nuanced user behaviors, you can apply regression, clustering, or other machine learning techniques to spot that. So while you will not be expected to build production-ready data science models, you will get the opportunity to use real-world data on a real-world problem that your business is trying to solve, and that's an extremely valuable addition to your CV as an aspiring data scientist. Let's talk about compensation. Bear in mind that I live in London in the UK, and this is based on my research as well as my experience when recruiting for data analytics roles last year as well as this year. So for a graduate job or an entry-level job, I would expect the pay to be between £25,000 a year to £35,000 a year. For a mid-level with maybe 2-3 years of experience, I would expect the pay to be between £40,000 to £50,000 a year. For a senior, that's talking maybe 4 to 6 years of experience, £50,000 to £75,000. And for a lead data analyst with maybe 5+ years of experience, 75 to 95k a year. It goes without saying that these are very industry, sector, and company dependent. If you work in public sector such as NHS or government jobs, or maybe some of the media companies, you will probably get the lower end of the bracket. If you work in private sectors such as banking banking, insurance, consulting, obviously tech, you will get on the higher end, or some companies, like the big tech, they will pay above the bracket. These are also based on you being an individual contributor rather than a team manager. With team management comes more responsibility, different type of skill set, and you do get paid more when you manage a team. You would have also noticed that I didn't put a 6-figure salary, and that is because I actually do believe that it's quite hard to hit 6 figures in data analytics in the UK and in London. That is not to say that those roles don't exist, but I think you will have to be quite experienced, maybe on the lead/staff level, and you will be required to know some data science, data engineering in order to land a 6-figure salary. I generally found that product analytics roles tend to be higher paid, but I think it's because you have to be quite a well-rounded business-orientated data analyst, and some of them do require a little bit of data science experimentation knowledge, which makes sense why they would pay a bit more. But that is not to say that there isn't growth or opportunity. I think there's a very clear progression if you continue to upskill and keep yourself up to date with the latest developments in the field. I'm sure some of us have thought that AI is an end of many careers as well as data analytics. It is very true that we definitely don't need as many data analysts as before. We also don't need as many analysts pulling basic queries. I can already see some of my product stakeholders writing code with AI rather than waiting for the data team to come back to them. But the reality is real world data is always messy, sometimes incomplete, and always needs context. You need to know what data source to trust, what is out of date, and how it connects to what's happening in the business. All of that needs a human. Most companies are also not startups. They're very old and big, and their data systems are quite complicated, and some of them are regulated. And it's going to take quite a while for them to rebuild their data infrastructure and their data sources to be accurate enough for anyone to write a couple of questions and expect that the answer that it's giving is using correct data. And that's a risk that a lot of businesses are unwilling to take. Instead, what AI is doing is making analysts, engineers, or data scientists a lot more efficient in what they do. Now, I don't spend hours on troubleshooting or correcting syntax, which doesn't work. I can do that with ChatGPT. I can also spin up an ML model in minutes. However, what I put into that model needs to be created by me. Using correct metrics and making sure that I'm looking at the right data is more important than the model itself. And more importantly, my value as a data analyst isn't coding. It's knowing the business inside out. It's knowing what metrics really matter and spotting when numbers are off because of a weird product launch that we had 2 years ago. AI is not going to know any of it. So no, I don't see data analytics disappearing. I see it evolving. AI is making my job more efficient so that I spend less time troubleshooting and more time crafting impactful business stories. And by focusing on turning data into strategy and becoming a thought partner to the business, you are future-proofing yourself as well. And on that lovely note, the sun has set and I will wrap up here. Thank you so much for sticking to the end if you did. Feel free to drop me questions in the comments or subscribe and follow for more of this. Bye!